What does the Mona Lisa, a dry erase expo marker, the Andromeda Galaxy, and the polar form of the Cauchy-Riemann equations all have in common? The answer? They're all completely random things that I said at the beginning of a LEGO Star Wars video to get your attention. And now that I have your attention, I shall keep it by randomly using my best Palpatine voice throughout the duration of the video. It will be unexpected, and you will never see it coming. So as you could hopefully tell from the title, this video is going to be about ranking all of those UCS sets that are way too big to be minifigure scale. So sets like the UCS AT-AT, which are minifigure scale, are not going to be on this list, and neither are sets like the UCS Venator, which are way too small to be minifigure scale. Also, I am only counting vehicles, so this guy is not going to be on the list.
And thank goodness, because the longer I look into his eyes, the more my mental state seems to deteriorate. So we're just gonna go ahead and move right on into the list. Down here at the bottom, number 17, we have the original UCS X-Wing from way back when. Now, this set actually looks really good on the box art. And that is because they made the very smart decision to put this box art in black and white, because the moment that you see this thing colorized, it just does not look very good at all. Really, I think that the only way to describe it is by saying that LEGO went ahead and went with a vomit color scheme. And really, they just did not have the right pieces back then to make certain parts of this look good. I definitely appreciate them trying to get in a UCS line so early on in the game, but they should have waited a little bit longer. And speaking of waiting a little bit longer, coming in at number 16 is the original UCS TIE Interceptor. Now, even though this one is second from the bottom, it is still leaps and bounds better than that X-Wing that we just took a look at. Blue certainly wasn't the best choice here, but at the very least, it is still aesthetically pleasing to look at. The majority of the issues with this one come from the shaping of it. Like, for example, the gaps in the wings are quite large. Neither are the wings sloped correctly. I personally consider the wings a little bit too flat. Now, here at number 15, I expect this one to be a fairly controversial pick. I have the 2013 UCS X-Wing. Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with the color palette on this one. They knocked it out of the park with the colors of this. Where this set falls apart for me, though, is the shaping. It just looks like a hunchback whale. Not a humpback whale, a hunchback whale. I don't know how to describe it, but that's just kind of the vibe that it gives off. Those engines needed to be a lot thicker for this to look good. Otherwise, this would go very high up on the list. But just because those engines are so small, it just throws the entire aesthetic of this thing off. Like, they used that size engine for the 2018 playset X-Wing, and they looked great on that set because they were actually properly proportioned, but just not on this one. I just cannot put this any higher than right here.
Now, for number 14, I have chosen the original UCS Y-Wing Starfighter.
Now I can already hear the keyboards going. Crazy dog, don't you know? The UCS Y-Wings are actually in minifigure scale. They shouldn't be on this list. Well, Steven, I say, assuming that your name is Steven, I'm actually quite intelligent. So intelligent, in fact, that I happen to know that there are two different sizes of Y-Wings in Star Wars. The Clone Wars Y-Wings are actually larger than the Rebellion's Y-Wings. A Republic Y-Wing this size is minifigure scale, but not a Rebellion Y-Wing. And now I can assure you that that was a piece of information that I have always known, and it was certainly not something that was pointed out to me on an episode of Surprisingly Scale of all things, where I'm supposed to know this type of stuff. Anyways, as far as the shape goes for the set, they did a pretty good job on this one. It's just another one of those sets that suffers from a really bad color scheme. And I know the Rebel ships are supposed to look a little bit beat up and a little bit janky, but they just did that a little bit too well here. Now, coming in next at number 13 is the original UCS Snowspeeder. Now, this one honestly isn't too bad. You know, I don't think that those wedge pieces really look the best, and also this just a little bit too studded for my taste, but it's honestly not that bad. Now, here at number 12 is the UCS ATST, which also suffers from an overabundance of studs up there on the top.
However, the legs themselves don't look too terribly bad. I have always been a great admirer of the design of the ATST Walker. It is truly one of my favorite Imperial designs in the entire Star Wars franchise. And I look forward to seeing what they can do with modern building techniques for a UCS ATST.
Now coming in here at number 11, I have Obi-Wan's Jedi Starfighter. And honestly, I don't really have a lot to say about this set, other than it's just kind of a more lackluster set. Like, it doesn't look bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not super exciting to me. And now, cracking the top 10, we've got Vader's TIE Advanced, which, I gotta be honest with you, I don't think that this one looks particularly good. In fact, it looks pretty rough, but it is still pretty interesting to look at. So that's why I put it above Obi-Wan Starfighter, because it's just a little bit more exciting in my opinion. And you know what, maybe that's a stupid way of ranking them, but this is my video and I'm the one ranking them, so ha! Now coming in here at number 9, we've got another UCS TIE Fighter, that being the UCS TIE Fighter. The wings on this thing are just perfect. I think that they did just such a phenomenal job with the wings here on this UCS TIE Fighter. I think that this easily could have been like a top 3 UCS set on this list if it wasn't for that cockpit. It's just a little bit jagged, a little bit janky looking, so that definitely brings the aesthetics down quite a bit. But other than that, I think that they did a phenomenal job with this, and we just gotta appreciate that box art, man. I love this box art style. I wish that they would bring this back.
And now, we discuss number 8, that being the most recent UCS X-Wing Starfighter.
Now, I personally don't think that the box art does a very good job of showing this set off, and that's because in all of the official images of the set, whenever they have the wings open, they open them up all the way. Having the wings opened up this much really does not look very good, and it makes the whole set just look weird, but when you open them up a moderate amount, like you would on a playset, it actually looks fantastic. And probably the biggest plus about this UCS X-Wing is that when you have the wings closed, it looks like an X-Wing instead of whatever the heck that 2013 one was. I totally understand the sentiment that that fuselage is a little bit too thick, it just makes it look a little bit too chubby, but I would absolutely take a thicker fuselage over crappy wings. This set definitely gets an A+ in my book, and so does number 7, Luke's Land Speeder. When you talk about getting a UCS set perfect, this is a set that should come to mind, at least in my opinion. Now, that might sound a little bit weird since this is all the way down at number 7, but that's mostly because, well, it is still just a land speeder, and it's not the most exciting thing ever, but man, did they do a good job with it. You know, I just feel like when you're ranking UCS sets like this, UCS ability has to be taken into consideration. You know, does that UCS set have the wow factor that an Ultimate Collector Series set is supposed to have? And so I'm really glad that they made this set. They did so good with it, but I just don't think that Luke's Land Speeder really needed to be a UCS set. So I'm definitely glad that they made it, but just by virtue of what it is, I can't really put it much higher than this. And then coming in at number 6, we've got the most recent UCS Snowspeeder from 2017, if I remember correctly. And first of all, love that box art. I love that box art so much, guys. But I really think that they did a fantastic job with this. I mean, the shaping, especially up at the front, is just leaps and bounds better than the original UCS Snowspeeder. And, I mean, come on. Who doesn't love the Snowspeeder design? No, but like, seriously, do you have any names? Because I'm trying to put together a list for... Well, what it's for isn't really all that important. We can just go ahead and move on.
Now here we have number 5, that being the UCS B-Wing Starfighter. On a more personal note, the B-Wing has for a long time been one of my favorite designs in the entire Star Wars franchise, and I have never understood the hate that this LEGO set gets. I do not own this set, and at $500 or more on the secondary market, I do not have any intention of owning this set. However, I do not think that it deserves the reputation which it has received among LEGO Star Wars fans.
And now for number 4, this is the only set on this list that I actually own. I have the UCS TIE Interceptor, and this one is just so good. This is easily the best UCS TIE Fighter cockpit that we have ever seen. It is so smooth, it just looks so good, and in this case, I think that the studded look of the wings actually works in this set's favor. The TIE Interceptor is just one of the most dynamic looking ships in all of Star Wars. It works so well as a UCS set. I think that the only complaint I personally have with this set as far as aesthetics go is just that the blasters on the front, the red ones underneath the cockpit, do look a little bit weird, but that is definitely a very minor issue because everything about this one just is so phenomenal. And speaking of phenomenal, we have the UCS A-Wing coming in at number 3. And on a personal note, the A-Wing is my favorite starfighter design that the Rebels have. So it does get some bonus points there for just already being a really cool ship. But as far as a LEGO set goes, this is fantastic. This is absolutely a set that I would love to own one day. I am periodically checking eBay for deals on this, though probably never going to be able to find it under $300, so we'll have to wait a little while on this one, but definitely very, very highly thought of by me and I think most of the LEGO community at large. Now here at number 2, we've got one of the best original trilogy sets, that being the UCS Republic gunship. Now, I know that this set sits in a big old puddle of controversy, which I completely understand. It was a fan-voted set. It should have come with the minifigures that fans voted to be in it, but at the end of the day, I personally am not someone that cares all that much about the minifigures in UCS sets. Neither am I somebody that owns all that many UCS sets, so for me, this gunship is just one of the coolest looking sets that they have made. Feel free to insult me down in the comments for putting it this high on the list, but this is, after all, a opinion video, and it is my opinion that this one is the second best oversized UCS set that they have made.
And now, number 1. The best oversized UCS set that I think they have made is the UCS Y-Wing, the most recent iteration. Now, to those of you who just skipped to the end to see what number 1 was, and who are now thinking, why does he have the UCS Y-Wings on here? Those are minifigure scale. I encourage you to go back and watch number 14 on this list. But yeah, I think that this UCS Y-Wing is just so well done. They completely outdid themselves here. If you ever want to talk about LEGO sets that they executed perfectly, this is probably one of the sets that should be brought up. There is an insane amount of greebling on this set, and it just brings the entire thing together so well. Unlike Luke's land speeder, which was only perfect, this one is both perfect and it has that wow factor that a UCS set really needs. Really, the only issue that this set has is that whenever they remake the UCS Y-Wing, it is not going to be better than this. Just having such a high standard set is going to make whatever comes next a downgrade. This is probably going to be a set that remains on my wanted list for the rest of my life, and I'm sure that there are a lot of other people in that boat too.
I can but only hope that one day I find a deal on the set that I cannot possibly pass up.
And so there you are. all of the oversized UCSs they've made thus far. If you enjoyed the video, I invite you to subscribe down below. Comment your thoughts, report all the bots. Don't text and drive. You want to stay alive? That way you can watch one of these end screen videos.